I just lost 40 minutes of footage. I lost 40 minutes of footage because I thought it would be a funny idea to tape my mic to Cyclops here and use him as a mic. Turns out when I taped it to him, it turned the mic off and ended up not picking up any of my audio. So, it's fine. I'm just very sad. Hi everyone. Welcome to what is hopefully my last art history video for now. It's been fun. It's been grand. Unfortunately, the class will be over after this. This is my final. If you're gonna be, oh my lord. There we go. Look at that. Everyone say hi to Logan. You may be wondering to yourself, Shay, why is Logan holding your, microphone? Why are you wearing your Nightcrawler shirt? Well, first off, I'm just always locked in, okay? Yes, I am wearing it because I'm just dripped the fuck out constantly. But also because today we're going to be going back to what I discussed in my first video with the Transformers. I'm going to be tying artworks, non-Western artworks, back to what I consider a very Western medium, which is comics. Specifically, the X-Men. I love the X-Men. You can't see the rest of my room. You can't see my Nightcrawler shrine. I love the X-Men. But not as much as my friend Chloe, who helped me a lot with this video, and I just wanted to say that. Thank you, Chloe. I really appreciate it. I love you. The whole thing is kind of deconstructing biases, eliminating that feeling of othering by connecting these artworks with something that is very Western. So let's dive right in. Yippee! We are going to start with the Western Buddha of the Great Buddhas and Caves of Bamiyan, created by the Ebodalo makers of Bactria in Afghanistan. Welcome to Central Asia. The Ebodalo are what they call themselves. They were from what we would call modern day Afghanistan, but they kind of spanned a lot of different areas, just mostly what we call modern day Afghanistan. So what happened was, the Greeks, right? Specifically, Alexander the Great. He came, he goes, la 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 la, he's got all his friends, la 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 la, they're all here. Alexander the Great dies. Now, all these people who followed Alexander the Great, they're like, the Ferk? What do we do? Well, I guess we just settle here. So they settled in the Ebodalo territory, and they ended up calling them they called them that. So that's what the Greeks called them. So if you see something and they're referring to the Ebodalo people as Hephthalites, that's because that's what the Greeks called them. The Ebodalo people would call themselves Ebodalo. So that's what I'm going to be saying. So you may be wondering, why is it important that the Greeks are here? Well, the Greeks, the reason why we know so much about this period is because the Greeks were there. There is a lot of stuff documenting this time period in the Ebodalo territory in Afghanistan because the Greeks were there writing about it. So, the Ebodalo, they created a lot of monumental architecture due to the fact that they lived in a very mountainous region. The purpose of their architecture was to make the mountains traversable. And also, another thing about the Ebodalos, their religious tradition was Buddhist. One of the first people in Central Asia to start practicing Buddhism, before even China, so go them. At some point, Muslim leaders start to take over the Ebodalo territory. They all get converted from Buddhist to Islam. And now we zoom in on Bamiyan, which is in Bactria, which is in modern day Afghanistan. Now we've got these sculptures of Buddha. They are rock cut. They were cut. So remember, it's a mountainous region. So you've got these giant rock cliffs, these sheer rock cliffs. We can just rock cut our own sculptures into the cliff sides of Bamiyan. And that's how you end up with these giant ass sculptures of Buddha. And by giant ass, I mean the one we're looking at is like 180 feet tall. That's freaking huge. And so, point of significance number one, these rock cut sculptures, they would have been painted. These rock cut sculptures of Buddha have red robes, and their heads are gold leafed. So, sun hits them, they're like, wah! On the side, there are these little inlets. You can walk around the feet, you can go up staircases, and then onto scaffolding to walk around the head. So not only were you supposed to just stand back here and be like, That's one big ass Buddha. You were supposed to walk around him. You're supposed to interact with it. It's supposed to be an immersive experience, which is really freaking cool. Inside of these inlets, there are a ton of fresco paintings of Ebodala leaders on the like cave walls, and basically they're placing them to say like, we're the like biggest Buddhists. Now, we're gonna do a little bit of history. History that I do not know. Give me 5 seconds. 1996, at some point, they end up taking over Afghanistan. And so then in 1997, the Taliban make a statement that the council, I'm pretty sure it's the UN Council, they make a statement that the council has refused the destruction of these Buddha sculptures because there's no worship of them. So the Taliban, they were like, if you are Buddhist, get the f out. We do not want you here. We do not want anyone practicing Buddhism. We do not want Buddhism in our sight. And so they're like, get rid of everything Buddhist ever at all. 1999, the Taliban delivers an edict, and the council considers the Bamiyan statues a significant source of income from tourists. So they're like, but we're getting a lot of money from people coming to visit it. So like, why would you want to destroy it? So much money. So much money. Why would you want to destroy it? So much money. Cut to 2001. The Taliban institute a decree, and they order the elimination of all non-Islamic statues and sanctuaries in Afghanistan. And that includes this statue. So in 2001, I literally wrote in my notes, packed to the cave full of rockets and blew that shit up. There ain't no more Buddha. It says it right there. So it was destroyed in situ in 2001. And a big problem with that it wasn't just the fact that it was a Buddhist statue. There were people living in there. There was a really bad poverty problem in Afghanistan. A lot of why the Taliban reasoned that they could destroy it was the UN was focusing too much on those statues. And they were like, okay, we blew this up. It's gone now. Can you stop focusing on it and help our people? Can we get humanitarian aid? And that was kind of their reason for blowing it up, except people were living in there. Remember those caves we talk about? People who were Muslim were living in those caves because they couldn't find housing anywhere else. They were living in there. And even though they were not practicing Buddhists, that was their home. And now that you blew that shit up, they got nowhere to live. And so, in line with the X-Men, this reminded me of Genosha. Genosha was Mutant Island. The whole thing was you go to Genosha, there is mutant tolerance. It is mutant friendly on Genosha. And so it becomes a mutant island where all of these mutants live. And of course, people aren't super happy about that. And so then they blow that shit up. And a lot of people die, and it's a tragedy. And it becomes this thing where they kind of swear to themselves, like, we're not letting something like Genosha happen again. And that's kind of what it reminded me of. It was like these people finding sanctuary and finding a safe space, and then having that taken away. So that's what the Bamiyan Buddha reminded me of. Next up, we have Echoes of Expectation, created in 2024 by Emi Kusano of Japan. This artwork was made with AI. You need to leave! I know. Hold on. Hold your horses. Grab your horses, and hold them. Thank you. AI artwork, we don't love it, right? But I need you to give me a chance, because I gave this artwork a chance after hearing that it was AI, and I'm glad I did. Because I, honest to God, think that this artwork would not have been as powerful as it was if it was not created using AI. And I know that is a strange statement to say, but I think once I explain it to you, you will understand what I'm talking about. So, buckle your seatbelts, like, put on your listening ears, take a second. Delete the comment. Delete the comment. I know you're writing it. Delete it. Listen. Thank you. Emi Kusano of Japan. She creates this artwork called Echoes of Expectation. Now, I'm going to do a quick AI for stupid people. By stupid people, I mean me. We know that this artwork is created using AI because of artifacting. AI artifacting, that is the, like, weird hands with too many fingers or too many hands in an artwork, all of that stuff. That is an example of AI artifacting. Emi created a data set / point cloud of her face, and inserted that into Stable Diffusion alongside prompting. She doesn't tell us what exactly her prompt was. She just says that it's about Japanese women, in quotes. She uses AI to see what the internet scan says that Japanese women are/should be. These AI platforms are trained on a good portion of the internet, primarily text and images, because those are manageable data sets. And the training is learning from all of these data sets and taking all the information it has gathered and distilling it all into one summarized idea of whatever you prompted from it. In this case, taking everything it knows about quote unquote Japanese women and distilling it into a set of still images that she then created into a video. Emmy is not using AI as a shortcut. That's where a lot of our gripes come from with AI, is people are using it as a way to, they're like, I don't want to learn to draw, so I'm going to use AI. I don't want to commission an artist. I don't want to have to wait on an artist, so I'm going to use AI. It's fast, it's easy, and most of the time it gives me pretty close to what I want. Emmy is not doing that. She's exploiting this thing, this algorithm that is literally data. Because if she had said, okay, well, this is my experience of being a Japanese woman who has had time in the West, like, here's an artwork based on that I made with my own hands, blah, blah, blah. Yes, it would have been powerful, but I feel like what she has done by exploiting this data set and literally being like, okay, this thing, its whole job is to take what everyone else has said ever at all on the internet and distill it down into one summarized thing, and that one summarized thing is this, that makes you confront something. And I think that's what makes it really powerful. And I'm getting into my opinion. So we'll move on to point of significance number 2. Emmy is a grown adult woman. Emmy is not a child. There are images of her from when she was younger, but I don't think she ever was like a young teenage girl whenever she gained her fame. She was more of like a young adult woman. And the face data set that she inserted into Stable Diffusion was of her grown adult woman face. When she inserted it and said, show me what I would look like as a Japanese woman, as what the internet says a Japanese woman should look like. Despite the fact that she provided data of her grown adult woman face, the AI, when prompted to depict quote-unquote Japanese women, chooses to depict her as a youthful schoolgirl, specifically high school aged. If that doesn't leave a bad taste in your mouth, I don't know what will. She explains that during her time in an American exchange program, she was in a homogenous Midwestern town in America. Very conservative, very religious. And a lot of that experience led to her own self-orientalism. Now, Orientalism, according to Merriam-Webster, I'm reading him down the list because they kind of expand on each other, so I'm going to just read it down. Orientalism, scholarship, learning, or study in Asian subjects or languages. Now often used with negative connotations of a colonialist bias underlying and reinforced by such scholarship. Usually, Orientalism, something such as a style or manner associated with or characteristic of Asia or Asians. In her context, when she says that her experience in this religious conservative town, this very homogenous place, it led to her own self-orientalism. The internalization of that feeling of being the other, especially feeling non-European and Western, especially being an Asian woman. And Emmy describes it as the expected self, the desired self, and the true self. The expected self are the stereotypes, especially what is expected of Japanese women. So a lot of times in the video, you will see like the Japanese women depicted are very much in a scholarly setting. They're all shown being smart. They're all shown being studious. There's also like samurai women, and then there's women who are cosplaying and all of this stuff. But the majority of the time, they're shown in a very studious manner. Desired self is how the West has come to sexualize the idea of Japanese women. So, alongside all of these women who are being very studious and in school, they are often, 1, depicted as high school aged and in high school academic settings, and 2, they are in a schoolgirl uniform, and 3, that schoolgirl uniform is often very skimpy. The first image of this video is a youthful Emi Kusano in a schoolgirl outfit with a very, very short cut skirt. There's a lot of sexualization going on in those images. And so that is the desired self. And then finally, the true self, what Emi and in turn all other Japanese women want to be themselves. No one wants to have their self defined by other people's expectations and desires. Whenever we first showed this video, it reminded me of how we treat Psylocke. Psylocke is an X-Men character, and before you write a comment about, well, actually, she's not Japanese, she's also British, there's Betsy Braddock and Quanon. First off, did I ask? Second off, no one is looking at Psylocke, the standard idea of Psylocke, and saying, maybe she's British. She is very intentionally depicted in a way to make the reader think that she is Japanese. She has a katana. She has these, like, there's just, she is very much intentionally depicted as a Japanese woman. And so even if you're talking about Betsy Braddock, oh, she's British, doesn't matter. We're not really talking about her right now. We're talking about Quanon, okay? Anyways, so we are discussing specifically Quanon Psylocke, but I don't really care. The point I'm trying to make is Psylocke in general is heavily sexualized by the X-Men fan community, fandom, whatever. I saw this especially after Marvel Rivals released. I love Marvel Rivals. Don't get me wrong. However, the thing about Marvel Rivals is you end up introducing these characters to people, these people who have never read this character's comic or comics with this character. They're now introduced to these characters and they're not taking the time to read their comics, which I don't blame them. I don't have the time to read all of Iron Fist's comics, okay? I love the guy. I don't want to read all of his comics right now. I'm busy. I'm in separate trenches right now. Like, I'm not expecting everyone to read every single comic ever made about a character. However, it does mean that what's going to happen is you have a character like Psylocke who is in Marvel Rivals and who in Marvel Rivals is very clearly depicted as Japanese. One of her alt lines is her saying a Japanese phrase. Insert alt line here. Her alt line is in Japanese. It is very much clear that she is supposed to be Japanese. The West, specifically Western men, are like, wow, you know what we should do? Sexualize the out of her. The point is, Emi Kusano's work reminded me of the way I've seen characters like Psylocke treated by the West. I think this is the one time I will call something an AI artwork, because she kind of cooked. She cooked. Artwork number 3 is A Fat and a Thin Horse by Ren Fa from China, 1254 to 1357. This artwork was created during the Yuan Dynasty. The Yuan Dynasty is the Chinese term for the period whenever the folks from the north, specifically the Mongols, came in and overtook indigenous Chinese rule. So you've got the ethnically Han Chinese versus everybody else, which is specifically the Mongolians. Ren Fa, he is a scholar official, which means that he took a bunch of tests and proved, and he became an official not through hereditary means, but through showing his scholarly prowess. So he earned his spot as an official. He was the vice president of the River Conservation Bureau, helping to irrigate Beijing and prevent flooding, because there was a lot of flooding in Beijing for some odd reason. Also, his tomb was discovered in 1950, which shows that he had enough money and enough status that he earned he earned a tomb, and 2, he earned a tomb that was well built enough that it remained preserved for however many years. So unfortunately, I am going to be poorly lit now, but it's because I could feel my eyes going out, so I apologize. Anyways, so point of significance number 1, the subject matter is horses. In Chinese history, represent energy and hard work. Then, as time goes on, they come to represent the Chinese government, because you want your government to be high energy, and you want them to be doing the hard work for you and for the people. The horses come to represent the Chinese government in its ideal form. This idea of the ideal horse specifically is comes to be called the G. The G are muscular. Sometimes they're a little chubby because they're like they're well fed and they're well taken care of. And in this particular artwork, it's the lead is on the G is free flowing and it's prancing and it's clearly a happy, healthy horse. The horse on the left is emaciated. Its head is down. The lead is wrapped around its neck and almost like a noose-like quality. It has a duller coat than the G, and its tail is between its legs. There are so many elements that contrast between them that are so different. What is happening here is that Ren Fa is grouping Chinese officials into categories, and by categories, I mean these horses. You are either the emaciated horse or you're the G. And so that's where we get into the xmen. These are those that are loyal to the Song dynasty, and they are represented by the weak horse because they are loyal to the before. They do not. They're not loyal to the Yuan. They're loyal to the what came before, the ethnically Chinese. The people in power, the Yuan, are not super happy about, and so whenever you're like, hey, I think we should go back to the way it was before you guys got here, they're like, no, and then they like kick your ass out, and now you're poor. Whoops! And now you're the emaciated horse. Now, by maintaining a loyalty to the Yuan dynasty, you become the well-fed, the G horse. You remain in political power. You remain with money in your pockets and power in your hands, and you can take care of yourself. You can take care of your family if you remain loyal. And so Renmin Fa, he is providing us, the viewer, with a choice. So you can be a xmen, you can be loyal to the Song dynasty, but that means that you are going to be perceived socially as this horse, as weaker. The xmen were kicked out of government, they lost their income, they were forced into poverty, and the horse became a symbol of that humility and almost martyrdom in turn for their loyalty. So I fixed my lighting somewhat. I'm still low-key kind of staring into the sun right now, but it's fine. I'll make it work. Fat and Thin Horse reminds me of the X-Men, is specifically throughout the comics, ever since the very beginning, there has been this rivalry between Charles Xavier and Eric Lehnsherr, or Magneto. So Professor X and Magneto beefing. There's a loyalty, and so if you are loyal to Charles Xavier, a lot of times you're more well respected because Charles Xavier approaches the mutant rebellion as more peaceful. He approaches it in a much more peaceful way, whereas Magneto, being a Holocaust survivor, understands the lengths that humanity will go to get rid of what they do not like. And so oftentimes the Magneto loyalists will be forced into hiding. They're kind of in dire straits. They're never really having the best time because they're essentially terrorists. And they are recognized as such. But a lot of people believe in Magneto's methods and his way of doing things, and so if you are with Magneto, you are the thin horse, and there is humility in that, and there is a kind of martyrdom in that, the same way the xmen loyalists use that thin horse as kind of an icon for their loyalty and for their humility. Whereas if you are to join Xavier, no one's gonna blame you. You get a whole ass mansion to yourself. Like, and you get respect, and you get to be, and yes, you have to be a child soldier, but like, there's the life is definitely better if you are loyal to Xavier rather than Magneto. Next up, we have Again We Ride by Dana Tiger, created in 2024. What we see here is women on horseback, specifically Native American women on horseback. So in Western imagery, all you see, specifically Native American men on horseback. Point of significance number one, these are women on horseback, not men. Native American women on horseback instead of Native American men. A common Western motif is the Native American man on horseback. And you see it all of the time in Western movies, in paintings, in whatever, all the time. And what Dana Tiger, which, by the way, I want to know more about Dana Tiger. Of course, I want to learn more about a woman named Dana Tiger. By depicting women on horseback, she flipped the stereotype and visualized these warrior women to reimagine the motif in her own lens. Point of significance number 2 is that they are very focused, and they are very much, like I said, they are locked the in. Like, I don't know how else to say it. They aren't holding back. They're invested in the forward motion, not only of, like, the horse, but also kind of, like, as we're going to talk about, like, kind of, like, moving forward into the future. Specifically, the lady in red is looking directly at us, while the other women are looking all around in various directions, protective, looking out and looking for the future. And so, what we talked about was, this isn't necessarily about Native American women being empowered. What this is repowering. Repowering is the preferred term because empower implies that the power was never there. Whereas with Native American women, a lot of times they were matrilineal and matriarchal. Women did hold positions of power, and it was expected. And then colonization happened, and then there were a bunch of disgusting ass white men being like, what if gross ass woman get the fuck out? And everyone was like, okay. No, she is not making this artwork to empower Native American women. She is making this artwork because there was a power. There was a power there, and it got taken away, and she wants to bring it back. What we were talking about was, in relation to, Again We Ride by Dana Tiger, how it ties into the X-Men, it's very similar to the Institute itself. A lot of times, whenever the X-Men do not have a place, they lose. Whenever mutants do not have a place, but whenever Genosha was lost, whenever Krakoa ended up being destroyed, whenever these things keep happening, whenever you lose a place for the X-Men to go, for the mutants to be, they end up losing their power. And a lot of times, in order to reclaim that, they have to find a place. So they find Genosha, they rebuild the school, they find Krakoa. A lot of mutants repowering themselves, which sounds funny because, they're mutants, they're gonna have powers, but a lot of them taking that back is whenever they, like, rebuild and find themselves a place to be. Last but certainly not least, from the government of Bhutan, the Great Buddha Dordenma. It was created in 2006 to 2015. It took a little while, and for reasons we will discuss. It is 177 feet tall, and it is in situ, which it's on site. Bhutan. One of the things that I found really cool about Bhutan was that they maintained their independence even during the East India Company. Similar to Bactria and Bamiyan, it is a very mountainous region, but this time it's because it's, like, in the Himalayas. Like, Bhutan is the Himalayas, so it's like, wow, right there. And so similar to how they do in Bactria and in Bamiyan, you have to build to accommodate for that, because no one's trying to climb up Mount Everest every 5 steps, not really feeling like it, I don't really feel like it. So you have to, your architecture has to, like, be built to accommodate for that. And that's how we end up with the Great Buddha Dordenma. It is a huge Buddha depicted in meditation, which has led to his enlightenment, shown by the mudra he's depicted with, which is this one. He is meditating. He has just achieved enlightenment, so this is not teacher Buddha. This is him right as he's found it. Also, he's not fat and he's not starving. He is the Buddha in moderation. He eats just enough to meditate, sleeps just enough to meditate, does just enough to live, and focus on meditation. Point of significance number 1 is where he is and why he is. So, it's a big-ass Buddha on a big-ass platform, in the mountains, on a hilltop, looking over the city of Thimphu, which is the capital city of Bhutan. He is fully gilded. He is all gold. So whenever he gets hit by the light, even if you are down there, if you look up in the hills, there's gonna be a giant glowing guy on the hilltop. He's gonna be bow. He'd look like this. He'd look like this. As well as him being a big ass Buddha, he's also made up of a bunch of tiny little Buddhas. 125,000 to be exact. It's supposed to be a microcosm, macrocosm kind of thing, so this tiny Buddha already contains all of the ideas and all of the spiritualism and all of the concepts of Buddhism inside this tiny little Buddha, and then you put 125,000 of them together. Whoa! And then you put 125,000 of them together into one big Buddha. Like all of these tiny pieces put together, the multiplicity elevates the power and elevates the sculpture. What they've said about it is this sculpture of Buddha is overlooking the capital city to bring peace and prosperity to the Bhutanese people and to the world. Point of significance number 2 is gross national happiness. So we all grew up in America. Well, okay, I shouldn't say that. Those of us who grew up in America will know about gross domestic product, which is basically just like the gross income of the entire nation. And that is how we measure our success, is how much money we've made. Because we are a capitalist society. Now, there's this guy, the 4th Dragon King of Bhutan, king at 17 in 1972. He's like, so like everyone else is doing this GDP thing. I'm not gonna lie, don't really f with it. I feel like a lot of people are being left behind by that. So what if, hear me out, we did a different thing? Instead of measuring our success to our wealth, we instead measure it by our gross national happiness, which is how we get G and H. And so basically, economic growth isn't the only goal. However, it is important. Like a good economy provides the government with the funds needed to provide for its people. If my government has good funds, I am then able to provide stable housing, stable health care, stable food, like necessities for my people, and therefore that will contribute to their happiness. And so consider how us in America, we don't have medical care provided for us. You have to pay for that. Unlike America, where we have to provide for ourselves, which is a very capitalist idea. In Bhutan, what the 4th Dragon King of Bhutan proposes is that it is my duty to provide these basic needs for my people so that they are able to be happy. And in that happiness, that is how developed my country will be. And a big part of that is like social, religious, and cultural ideas. By fostering that community and that culture and that faith and that religion, that then also contributes to happiness, because then people are socializing, and that is a part of the happiness. Because what he was noticing was, like, whenever we account for whenever we say that the wealth equals happiness, you're not accounting for the fact that people are living in poverty, and then people are also very isolated. People are sad and lonely. And so he's like, no, a part of helping my people be happy is providing them with social and cultural opportunities so that they can socialize with each other. And this site is a part of that. All of this is a part of the gross national happiness, and that reminded me of Krakoa. Remember how I said I was going to talk about Krakoa? Well, here we are. Remember Genosha? Of course you do. It's dead. That's why we created Krakoa. But Krakoa. So, Krakoa becomes this mutant paradise. And only mutants are allowed for the most part. And basically they don't really, it's its own thing. It's not, it becomes kind of in its own country. At some point they start like colonizing Mars, which that wasn't really cool, but whatever. But the whole point of Krakoa is that everyone everyone's given a fresh start, and there's no one lives without, and they're very much like, if I were to give them a philosophy, it would be the gross national happiness. A lot of what Krakoa believes in is just providing for its people. They're not worried about profit. They're not worried about all of this stuff. They're worried about protecting the mutant species. So Krakoa creates these like flowers, which are very like, they're kind of like a universal drug. Like literally anything can be cured with this flower from Krakoa. And so this is so funny to me. What happens is Charles Xavier brain blasts every official in America, like not even in America, in the world, like literally anyone who has any power. He's like, "Hey, ladies, hey, what if? Okay, so hear me out. You recognize Krakoa and you let us like us be a part of the United Nations and whatever. We will give you our drugs. We'll give you our drugs. We'll give you our drugs, and you can solve all your problems." Xavier out. And that's it. And that's it. Whenever we were talking about the gross national happiness thing, I was like, man, that sounds like when Krakoa was goated. Unfortunately, is not goated anymore because it doesn't exist. That's it. I hope you enjoyed. I'm sorry that I'm not going to be making any more of these for the foreseeable future. But please do stick around because I do have other things that I want to make. And it's still going to be me. And I still think I'm funny. And if you don't think I'm funny, then you're lying. Because you stayed to the very end. Unless you're my professor. I'm really sorry. You kind of had to stay. So. Please give me a passing grade. That'd be fantastic.